Hello, AV friends, and welcome to HETMA Presents Chair to Chair, the podcast where I sit down with the incredible leaders driving innovation and community within HETMA. I am Erin Maher-Moran, the chair of HETMA's board of directors, and I'm excited to bring you into these conversations that go beyond the day-to-day of technology management. So in each episode, I'll explore not just what our committee chairs do for HETMA, but who they are as people, professionals, and leaders. We'll dive into their career journeys, the moments that shape their perspectives, and the vision that drives their work in higher education technology. But most importantly, we'll connect their stories with the themes and challenges that matter the most to our community right now. So whether you're a longtime HETMA member, considering getting more involved, or simply curious about the people who dedicate their time to advancing our profession, these conversations are for you. So settle in and let's go chair to chair. And in the chair today, I have Jon Youse from Ivy Tech Community College, who is HETMA's regional chair. Thank you for chatting with me today, Jon.
Well, thank you for having me, Erin. It's great to be here.
Yes. So I'll just put this out there that this month's theme is Need for Speed, Self-Advocating. Let's have conversations about advancement, whether it's a pay raise, job title, or a new responsibility. We'll advocate for ourselves and take action towards the next level. But yeah, before we jump into talking about the theme, I want to get to, know a little bit more about Jon. So let's start with your journey to Ivy Tech. Like how did you get into higher ed technology?
Well, higher ed technology kind of stems from my start doing TV production in college. I worked at a cable access station at Purdue Fort Wayne here in town. And that kind of, got me into doing AV work as well as, kind of production, kind of feeling out how things connect and learning how to do stuff with different audio and video devices. So after graduating, I started working for the University of St. Francis here in Fort Wayne as their AV technician. And kind of, from there, I had a 15-year journey with that employer that kind of started me down the path of a technology manager, because I went from pushing carts around, the campus to, planning out technology that goes into buildings and, managing help desk and people like that. So it's kind of crazy. And during the pandemic, actually, I started at Ivy Tech, in a role as an educational technologist, which primarily works with the learning management system and, kind of teaching technologies, for staff and students, or faculty and students. After they got wind that I knew AV stuff and how to manage projectors and things like that, that became my job pretty quickly. So been there 5 years and been loving it ever since.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, it is amazing the amount of us that end up in this field that were cart pushers at one point in time.
Yes.
The projector sector.
Yes.
So, community colleges often face kind of unique challenges compared to four-year institutions. How has that shaped your perspective on technology management?
Well, for us specifically, it's fairly survival AV. I mean, it's very bare bones and basic for the most part. Obviously, as a community college, we're putting most of our funding into actual people who are, teaching and providing the learning experience. Not quite so much on, the technology side. I mean, we try and have, things as basic as we have. We're just striving for efficiency in terms of all of those things that we may be buying in terms of equipment. Because, also, I mean, we have all kinds of trades programs that also take lots of equipment in order to be able to train people how to, run metal lathes and do auto body work and things of that nature. So there can be quite a lot of overhead in the equipment department here at a community college.
Oh gosh, I bet. Yeah, the needs definitely are a bit different. Not
Hmm.
as much a PowerPoint driven, I'd imagine, in some of those classes. They actually are much more hands on.
Yeah, exactly. Their class could be literally just in the guts of an engine in a vehicle, or building something in the construction shop. Very very hands on. But I mean, we do have plenty of other things, including like computers, networking, and nursing types of programs. So there's a wide gamut.
So the theme this month is need for speed, self-advocating. And can you share a time when you had to advocate for yourself professionally, maybe for a raise or a promotion or new responsibility?
Well, I mean, I'll use the example of Ivy Tech when they brought on the responsibility for campus AV. Like I said, the position was working with our learning management system and with faculty and students, helping them with the technology, around their books and courseware and things like that, that they use in education. When they first presented that to me, I'm like, well, that's a big add in terms of responsibility. So I had to basically lay out the things that I felt I was going to need, not only for myself, but in terms of a team to help manage this situation. And fortunately, I've had enough experience to know to not just kind of go with the flow, but to at least put it out there and ask for everything that you want and that you think you need. And you can always negotiate later as to whether, like, well, we can't go quite that far, and you really don't need three new people to do this position type of thing. But yeah, you just have to put it out there and ask.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's much easier to like ask for more and dial it back than to ask for like the bare minimum and then be like, well, can you do less? Like ask for more and then you can always dial it back.
Absolutely. Design for the ideal situation and then dial it back to what budget or other constraints kind of allow. So that was kind of the way I took it with this.
Yeah. So when advocating for yourself and stuff like that, do you find it uncomfortable, empowering, or kind of somewhere in between?
For me, I find it very uncomfortable because generally I'm just kind of a quiet, reserved type of guy. Contrary to all the talking that I'm doing right now on this podcast, typically I'd rather just kind of go about and do my thing, do my tasks, and not call attention to myself, and just kind of get the work done. But if you don't, kind of call attention to yourself, or at least call out like, your wins and your accomplishments, and present that in some way, I mean, you're only being a detriment to yourself. I mean, because yes, I mean, most often when you're doing good work, people will see what you do and they'll recognize you for it. But it does not hurt you to try and also put that out there, and more than just once a year at like your annual review. If you've got regular like one-to-ones with your boss, your supervisor, whoever, make sure you're letting them know what you're doing, and where you might need support, because that's another pretty vital aspect of advocacy. It's like if you need a professional development, or maybe you just need some more time on some project because of situations that come up. Make sure you're out there and you're asking for what you need.
Yeah, has there ever been a time, or is there anything in particular that made you realize you needed to start advocating for yourself more?
Yeah, I mean, I was with the University of St. Francis for 15 years and ended up getting rift. So, and that gave me lots of time to contemplate afterwards, because this was during the pandemic too. So, hiring was not, going crazy. But, I kind of realized that, maybe because I was being the quiet guy and not really advocating for myself, or proving my worth, or what I was doing for the institution, that might have contributed to being rift. So that gave me some new perspective based on that experience.
So can we kind of, we touched on this a little bit, that working at a community college often means like doing more with less. How has that environment like shaped how you think about career advancement and self-advocacy?
Yeah, well, I like the idea of being able to optimize and do what you can with what you have. I think those are pretty vital skills, not only for working in this kind of environment and career, but that can apply to every type of career. Is just trying to make the best with what you can, because you might not always end up in an ideal situation. And certainly, if you've ever done a live event, I mean, you're not going to end up in an ideal situation. So you got to kind of roll with the punches and do what you can with what you have, and maybe plan for a better day when hopefully the state will increase your budget rather than decrease it.
Right, yeah. So how do you help yourself and those that you work with get the recognition and resources you deserve when you might not have the same kind of visibility as colleagues elsewhere?
Well, fortunately for me and my team, we interface so much with our faculty and students. We're always kind of out there. So I'm always trying to make sure that they hear when good things are said about them, and that I'm always saying good things about them, in like my one-on-ones with my supervisor, so that they kind of have an idea of what not only I but the team is doing, to help with that. Because you don't, like you said, you don't always get the recognition that you should, but I try and do what I can to make sure that they feel valued, just as people do to me. So
That is so important. That is so important to make sure to recognize like the good stuff that people do, especially when they don't think it's being noticed. Yeah.
yeah.
So, what's your advice to technology professionals at maybe smaller or under-resourced institutions who want to advance their careers?
Well, I would say that HETMA is a really good step, because I feel like so many new connections have happened for me, networking, and possibilities even, in my career, just from being a part of HETMA and being involved. Because again, like I said, I tend to be a person who's in the background and not want to, be out there too much. But when the call kind of came up to take on this responsibility as regional chair, I was really scared, and then excited also, to have the opportunity to try and do something like this, because it also helps to give back, on some of my knowledge and experience, into the organization, and help to make connections for people.
So the theme is said need for speed, but advancement doesn't always happen quickly, and
It does
especially in
not.
higher ed, when
Yes.
things move at the speed of higher ed. And how do you balance pushing for what you want with being strategic and patient?
I like to think that patience is something I have in great abundance. So I usually stick towards that be patient side, and kind of wait for opportunities as they come along. Which in general, and at least in my experience for me, that has happened. I am not a very pushy person at all, but I like I said, I do try and at least advocate for my worth, or put forth some ideas that I hope could pick up traction and maybe be beneficial to me in terms of career.
Yeah. How do you maintain momentum and motivation when advancement feels slow?
I don't know, you have to, I think, set goals for yourself, beyond just, I want to hit this type of position, or I want to be an executive director or a vice president, or whatever. I think you need to set kind of your own personal goals about completing a project, or maybe some continuous learning, or maybe you do want to continue your education and get like a master's degree or a doctorate or something of that nature, because sometimes things like those will also help open doors for careers. Because I mean, as we all know, in education, they're always looking at those pieces of paper. It's like, that's very important. So if you do want to move up, you kind of have to have those pieces of paper to back up and show that you've got some I don't know, some buy-in to the educational process, and that you're committed to higher education.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. Because I'm all about, like, always be learning,
Mm-hmm.
always keep all all the professional development. Like, but yeah, then there is the time to recognize that maybe that's not enough. You have to get that advanced certification or that next degree or whatnot. And especially if you are aiming high and you want to be director level, or even aiming for above that,
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, and especially in a field like higher education, where that is their end game, is to get those pieces of paper in people's
Mm-hmm.
hands. So yeah, it's sometimes there's a lot of times where in the AV field, people are like, well, you don't need those things, and for the most part, no, until you get to a certain level, and then it benefits. But yeah, I mean, I went through that myself.
Yeah, and you can take advantage of higher education, because often that also gives us discounts on our continuing education. When I was at St. Francis, I got 2 master's degrees because that was part of our compensation package, was we were able to take those classes. So it's like, why would I not try and do that to benefit myself? I mean, it's definitely a lot of work. I mean, as anyone who's done kind of some postgraduate work would tell you. But again, it was an opportunity that I had to take some courses and get a degree that I thought might benefit in the future, for things that I hope to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, like, we don't necessarily tend to be like the best paid either, like, because it's part of the mission. We're
Yes.
educating the youth and this and that, but, like, take advantage of those benefits. If you can get yourself a cheaper education or
Hmm.
free education, take
Yes.
advantage of it, because
Absolutely.
that is built into your benefits package. Take all
Yeah.
of it.
And it doesn't have to necessarily be in your field. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had plenty of coworkers here at Ivy Tech who, since we do all of these different kind of workforce type of programs, I mean, they've earned like culinary degrees. They've gotten a networking degree, in computers. They've done this and that. I mean, because you do get some benefit, I think, from continuous learning. I mean, I love learning new things, every day. I think, it's kind of like a shark. When they stop swimming, they die. I think if you stop learning, you know, you die a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's like you got to keep the brain's a muscle, and you got to keep it
Yes,
active, or it just
absolutely.
dwindles. All right, I'm now gonna, take the turn down the HETMA path
Hmm.
and talk about your role within HETMA. So, let's start with what drew you to the organization.
Well, I heard about it for the very first time from my Panasonic rep, and he said, "Hey, are you part of HETMA?" I'm like, "What's a HETMA?" So then he kind of started explaining what it was, and literally as soon as he left the office, I went to hetma.org and I signed up, and just started, reading and mostly lurking through the community because again, background guy, I just kind of, trying to glean some information. But what really did it for me was the virtual conference in 2025. I mean, being a part of that for 3 days and interacting with people within the conference, it was just mind blowing for me that there were other people out there in similar situations, and that I wasn't this unicorn, with my little problems here at the community college. Like everybody, at various levels experiences those same type of problems, and then we're all there to help each other was something that was what really drew me in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I absolutely loved that at InfoComm last year, you were our badge winner. You collected all of the pins, and you really like took that challenge and were like getting it done.
Well, I did, and in all honesty, I figured that's my only chance of getting back to InfoComm, anytime soon. Because I mean, I was able to, since I transitioned into a new role, kind of say, hey, I need to do some of this stuff for professional development so I can get myself kind of back into the AV game. And, Infocom was one of them, but it's a big expense for a small college, and they're like, well, we can do this once. I'm not sure that it's going to happen again. So when I heard that opportunity, it lit a fire under me, and I went and sped right through the course.
Which is awesome. And it really it made you stand out. Like we were like that John, we gotta keep our eyes on him. And so then when the regional chair position became vacant and we needed to fill somebody, we were like,
Yep, I was the first runner up, so I got to serve, if the initial winner was not able to fulfill their duties. So, yeah, again, that, like I said, it was scary but exciting at the same time, which I think a lot of times that's how growth opportunities are for us. It's something that takes you out of your comfort zone and helps you grow and evolve.
and so for our listeners, can you paint a picture of what your position actually involves?
Sure. Well, I'm primarily in charge of the road shows in terms of HETMA, which are the kind of networking and technology showcase events that we try and bring around all over North America, to our members in places where maybe you aren't able to go to InfoComm every year, but if we can bring maybe this little slice, this little nugget of what that kind of technology show would be, closer to you or in your backyard, then you can come and interface with those manufacturer partners and sponsors of ours who come to the shows, and more importantly, you can network with the people in your area, because it's not people flying in from all over the world or all parts of the country. We're talking about the people who are kind of within 1, 2, 3 hours of a location that are going to come together and meet and network.
Yeah, it's great to get those that like regional connections made.
Well, and hopefully it's just a kickstart, for continued networking amongst those colleagues in those regions. I mean, very recently, last year, I believe there was a roadshow in Toronto, and we just had one of those people reach out to us again and say, "Hey, is it all right if we do like kind of a networking and meetup? We don't really want the trade show part, but we just all want to get together and be able to like talk." I'm like, "Yes, absolutely. Please do that. And if there's some way that HETMA can support you, we will." But you don't have to have a full-blown roadshow. It doesn't have to follow this specific guideline. But if you guys want to get together and talk about, your issues and things that affect you and maybe ways that you can work and collaborate together, I think that is an awesome idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the vision. That was the hope that we would set up those connections and people would kind of just run with it. It's awesome. I love hearing that. So, and this role is one that kind of requires some travel and a lot of coordination.
Yes.
Like, how do you stay organized and keep it all together?
I've become adept, I think, at juggling and moving pans around on the stove. I try and make notes for myself to kind of keep track of where we're going as we're planning out each roadshow. And it's just a lot of interfacing with each host at each institution, as well as our sponsor partners who make these roadshows possible. Yeah, I guess I must have some kind of gifting for it because it seems to be going pretty well. I mean, as it stands, there's like 5 of them that are going on right now that are being planned simultaneously. And, knock on wood here, they're all going to turn out pretty well. But, yeah, we've got 2 coming up next month. The Ohio Valley is going to be on May 13th at Marshall University. And then our first European roadshow is going to be in Mechelen, Belgium, May 26th and 27th. So just 2 weeks after that. It's a very exciting and busy time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think initially we had sort of set out a goal of having like 4 road shows a year. And then we were like, oh, well, let's add an international one or one additional one in Canada. But now it's kind of, at first we were like, well, I don't know, because we have to have, people, campuses have to volunteer to host. And we were like, okay, let's not go too crazy. But now it's like, oh yeah, they want to plan a roadshow, and we want to plan a roadshow, and now we got another roadshow and it's been fantastic to hear.
It is. I mean, we're at the point where you have to kind of hold people off. It's like, well, it's not going to happen this year, but we can look at next year and start planning for 2027, because we got a pretty full slate for the rest of this year. It's really exciting, but we certainly don't want to overextend ourselves or the organization, since we're all volunteers here, and we have to work our full-time jobs and not just our our second full-time jobs.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of a skill to we have to look at the calendar and know certain times of the year. Do not plan an event because higher ed folks are not going to be able to attend. So it's like being thoughtful in that way and being thoughtful to plan around other industry events and other higher ed partner events. And then we're like, okay, what are those 4 days of the year that are available that we can snatch up?
Yeah, that's totally it.
So, what has been the most rewarding about bringing HETMA directly to different regions through these events?
Well, I mean, I really just enjoy, getting to meet new people as I'm there at the roadshow who are there locally. I mean, it's great to kind of, get to know the partner institutions better, because, I mean, there's plenty of meetings with them and emails back and forth as you're coordinating everything. But it's nice to get to meet the individuals that come to the roadshow and, kind of find out a little bit more about them, and see how they like it. See if there's ways that we can improve, or just whatever. It's nice to see an event kind of pull off smoothly.
So has there been anything that surprised you since you've stepped into the role?
I don't know, maybe just the kind of amount of coordination that goes into it all was kind of surprising, but that's also in a good way, because like I said, I agreed to this as a way to kind of help me grow and learn stuff, and I think that's been as beneficial to me, hopefully, as it's been to the organization.
So you're coordinating road shows and managing volunteers all across the country,
Hmm.
and now even the world. That's a lot of new responsibility. Like, how did you prepare yourself to take this on?
I don't think there's any preparation really.
Just chucked you right into the fire.
uh, yeah, kind of. I mean, because when I started, we were like 2 months out from doing a road show in Vanderbilt, in Nashville, and that was pretty much the extent of the planning at that point in time. We knew the location and the date, so everything else was kind of learning as I go. But I mean, I've had such fabulous support from the people here in HETMA who have been down that road and have worked many road shows, and have been right there for me when I needed to ask questions about, okay, so how do we do this? What exactly is the the protocol? Oh, there's no protocol. Okay, well, I'll figure that out as we go along. So
Like, I will make the protocol.
yeah, I'll admit I've been trying to keep some notes and put together something, like if if I ever hand off the job someday, I'm handing them a notebook full of things that you need to do and prepare and know how to do as the regional chair. So
I do like a thoughtful, like, handover. That's and that is one of the things that, because HETMA's been an organization that was just kind of built as we're speeding down the highway. There definitely is some lack of formalized plans and procedures and things like that. So I appreciate all of the help that you
well,
would
and
give the next
legitimately, it's
person.
hard to do when you're in the thick of it. It's not really the thing that's preeminently on your mind when you're trying to get things done. You're just hoping that it all still stays in flight and keeps moving, and this and that. But um, you know, as the organization gets older and more established, I'm sure that these things will be a lot more formalized as they go along, um, because you've got a great base of volunteers who can help do that stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So, talk. You took on this leadership role, and how do you do? What do you see as like holding people back from raising their hands to take on opportunities like this?
Probably just the additional outlay of time. I mean, time is one of our most precious commodities as humans. You'll never get more of it. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So when you've got, family commitments and work commitments, and maybe you've got other things that you're involved with, it can be, you know, daunting to think of taking on something else. But, I've not found it to be unrewarding, I guess, for myself. Um, but yeah, I mean, and sometimes, I mean, in a world of AV people, we're all kind of wallflowers, or we're the people, like behind the desk, or in the back of the room, that kind of thing, who are not always so upfront with people. So I think naturally that can kind of hold us back a little bit, but I think it just benefits you so much for making that connection to other people in a larger organization and knowing that you are not alone or unique in the universe, and that there are plenty of other people out there just like you. Um, and I really think HETMA is like a second family. Just because we all care for each other, which you don't always get in an organization. So it's always marvelous to find that kind of a thing.
Yeah. So, talking a bit more about like about self-advocacy and the like what would be like your best advice for someone who, knows they deserve more but is afraid to ask?
Well, I'd say if you're afraid to ask, start compiling, some sort of list of accomplishments or something of that nature. I mean, maybe you're just filling out more stuff on your LinkedIn, or maybe you're kind of preparing, stuff in whatever that documentation system is that you use for your annual review or whatnot. Because, I mean, you need to be prepared too. Like if somebody just asks you right off the cuff, is like, well, what is it that you're doing that's so important? So you want to be ready to be able to list off like at least five or so things right off the top of your head that you are doing to contribute to the organization. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, fear is a tough thing. Most of the time, it's irrational. It's just something that you have. And like I said, if you're not used to doing a lot of talking to people or self advocacy, it's tough. But you just kind of have to put yourself out there and you know speak up for yourself. I mean, most of the time, you're not going to be in a situation where it's adversarial and the person's going to be like, up against you. Normally, your supervisor, whoever is in your corner, they're pulling for you, and you just need to give them kind of the ammunition they need, to maybe make something happen, or some sort of raise or a change in job.
Right, yeah. And what resources or support do you feel that like HETMA can offer that would help members advocate for themselves more effectively?
Well, I think, all of the professional development opportunities that are with HETMA through like the lunch and learns and all of the advisory boards and things like that are really good things that you can put on that list of stuff that you're doing to continue to educate yourself. Um, I also think there's lots of people in the community who would gladly be a mentor for you. If you just post out there like, hey, I really want to try and learn how to advocate for myself and to do this stuff. I mean, having a mentor is a great thing. I think that in every place I've ever worked, I've had at least one person who's been a good mentor who you can just go to and kind of be real and talk to, and not, have any repercussions. Then they can, give you some guidance as to how you might proceed down that path.
Yeah, and that person, it doesn't like I feel like people get so kind of bogged down in the like mentor mentee thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't really have to be anything even formal.
Right.
Like you just somebody
It's
who
it's better if it's informal, I think.
yeah, and like somebody you just look up to potentially that you're like, I want to be like you someday, or there's something in how they handle themselves, or
Mm-hmm.
something that they've done in the past that you're like, teach me, show me,
Yes.
share your secrets.
And for the most part, everyone I've ever looked to for something like that has been completely open and welcoming, and I try and do that same for my staff. You know, because I tell them it's not just about doing what you need to do now. It's like, how do we make you grow to do whatever you want to do next, and give you those type of opportunities? Because, we're not going to stay in the same job forever. I mean, those kind of days are typically done. So it's about what you can do to prepare for what you might want to do next. And that's where a mentor really comes in handy. Even if it's not like the person you want to be someday, like you said, maybe they've just got some aspect of them, or maybe it's just, like a trait like leadership, where you're trying to learn from, someone who you respect and admire in that fashion. I mean, mentors are great things.
Absolutely. Well, let's look into the future a little bit, and looking ahead, where do you see the regional groups and trade shows? Where do you see this going?
Well, I mean, I would love to see these things happening with regularity, even returning into some of the same locations. But maybe it's not necessarily HETMA driving it specifically. Maybe it's the groups in that region. Um, I'd say, if our partners and whoever are up to it, that we could do that with a regularity, in the regions that we go through. It might not all be just one person planning it anymore. Maybe it's a group where they can, kind of divide some of those responsibilities up, or you take this one and I'll take that one, and that kind of thing. But I think it would be nice to have those opportunities more available for people, and not just okay, it came to Toronto this year, and maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the way we can have another one, type of thing. But maybe it could be a little more regular.
And
It'd be fun.
so, and then personally, like, what are you going to be advocating for in your own career, and for over the next couple of years?
Um, yeah, I see myself on a track towards being more of an administrator in the university, and kind of have some sights set on, maybe even in our statewide system. Just being able to bring more consistency to our AV, like around through the system, because every campus is different, and they basically rely on integrators just to sell them whatever the integrator thinks that they need to do a thing. And yeah, I saw the face, and that's the same face that I make whenever I hear that too. It's like, no, absolutely not. They are there for you, not you for them. Um, yeah, just to bring more consistency, and maybe a regular, like, refreshment cycle for the AV, because they do that on the computing and networking side. That's locked in, but it's not even a thought when it comes to AV. It's like, oh, well, if something breaks, we'll throw some money at it, or if we build a new building, it's like, okay, we'll put some new stuff in that building then.
Yeah, that's the frustration of new buildings, because they're like, we put all this great stuff in it, and then it's like, yeah, but what about years down the road when it needs to be renewed and replaced?
Yeah.
And
What happens in 7 years when we need to refresh the displays?
no plans ever. But that'd be great to have you be the guy.
I would love it.
I absolutely know that you've got it in you. You can do it, and you'll make that happen. So, how can our listeners get more involved in the regional groups and roadshow events?
Well, certainly attending is a big thing. We also have, every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. an events committee group that meets here with HETMA. So there's a place in the community, for events that you can, ask to join up, and then you can be part of the group that plans those road shows and other events, because it's not just the road shows. It's things like InfoComm, and the virtual conference, and ISE, and all these other things that HETMA gets involved and goes to. And there's other events that come up that aren't necessarily HETMA events that we're trying to get people out to, just to help continue to spread the word and about HETMA. So maybe if there's something like that happening in your community, you can go there and help represent, or at least maybe bring it to our attention. Maybe it's something we don't know about, some conference that you have locally, or things that an integrator does. Then we'd love to be able to be a part of that and maybe get you there as an emissary.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining me, Jon. And so how can our listeners reach out to you after listening to this awesome podcast, if they want to chat with you about road shows or anything in general?
Well, you can definitely find me in the community, or you can email regionalgroups@hetma.org. And that's my email with HETMA, and that's how I typically respond and interact with the HETMA folks. But yeah, go ahead and give me a shout out. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Jon, for your honesty, your practical wisdom, and your willingness to share. Jon's journey from community college technology professional to HETMA Regional Chair shows us that advancement happens when you're willing to raise your hand for new opportunities, even when you're not entirely sure you're ready for it. So here's the challenge this month. Take one concrete action towards your next level. Update that resume, document that recent win, schedule a conversation with your supervisor, research what colleagues in similar roles are earning. Whatever your next step is, take it. The speed of your advancement is directly related to the strength of your advocacy. So next month, I'll be exploring Fuel the Fire, the path forward, with another incredible HETMA leader as we continue this journey of professional growth together. Until then, accelerate your self-advocacy, communicate your value clearly, and remember, if you don't advocate for yourself, no one else will do it for you. I'm Erin Maher-Moran. This has been Chair to Chair. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to HETMA Presents. This show is a production of Higher Ed AV Media. Please visit higheredav.com to learn more about this show and a host of others. The views expressed here are not necessarily those of our respective institutions, employers, or sponsors. We'll be back soon with another installment of HETMA Presents.